him. Look at Acts 14, 21 and 22. You remember Barnabas was the one, along with Mark, remember John Mark, who wrote the Gospel of Mark, went with Paul and Barnabas on their first missionary journey through Acts, and they went preaching, encouraging, giving the gospel. And so look at Acts 14, 21 and 22. This is them returning to Antioch and Syria after preaching the gospel. It says they preached the good news in that city and won a large number of disciples. Then they returned to Lystra, Iconium, and Antioch. Here it is, 22. Strengthening the disciples and encouraging them to remain true to the faith. Okay, so now this is going to give us a hint into what this gift looks like. What were they doing? Okay, Paul had this gift. Barnabas had this gift. When you look at Paul, it's hard to not see all of the gifts. It really is. Like, I could point at Paul and pretty much point at almost every gift, even the miraculous ones. Like, he has them all. He even says, I speak in tongues more than all of you. He prophesies. He does crazy healing miracles. He's always teaching. He's always preaching. He's always evangelizing. He's always encouraging. He's always working. Right? He's like, I have a right as an apostle to take money from you for my ministry, but instead I'm going to work and provide for my own ministry. So I'm going to be a full-time pastor, both working and being a pastor. And so Paul has all these gifts, and he needed them. Look what the guy accomplished. Not only did he write half the New Testament, but the guy evangelized the entire Roman world, if you will. In 3 missionary journeys, and ended up appealing before Nero and probably preached the gospel to him too, because that's what Jesus said to him, like, you're going to appear before Caesar, who was at the time Nero, which in that day they thought he was the Antichrist. A whole nother message. Okay, so now Acts 15, this will be familiar to a lot of you. Acts 15, 36 and 41. Remember, Acts 15 is the council at Jerusalem. Very interesting thing that was going on. Judaizers saying we must obey the law. Gentiles getting all freaked out because they weren't obeying the law. All right, let's form the first council and make some doctrinal distinctions. Let's lay down some laws here. So read Acts 15 and you will see what they came to. So 36, this is after that. Now watch this. Sometime later, this is after the Jerusalem council. Sometime later, Paul said to Barnabas, let us go back and visit the brothers in all the towns we preach the word of the Lord to and see how they're doing. So Paul's like, all right, they go on their first missionary journey. They come back to Antioch. Antioch's sort of like their base. There's trouble in Antioch because the Judaizers are like, you guys got to keep the law. Okay, you got Jesus, that's good, but you still got to keep the law. And they're like disturbing all kind of people. And Paul and Barnabas are like, no, you don't got to keep the law. So you can just imagine the tension. Debate and tension. So they're like, all right, we got to settle this. Let's get the apostles to weigh in. And so they go to Jerusalem and they hold the first church council, just like the Council of Nicaea, Council of Ephesus. And you can look at church history and see these councils, and they lay down doctrinal, like the Trinity came from the Council of Nicaea. That's where we get that word from Athanasius. And so councils throughout church history, this being the first one, have always been like sort of the church coming together, representing Christianity as a whole, and laying down and making decisions. And then in the 1500s, it got all screwed up, and so like the Catholic Church made their decisions at the Council of Trent, which were totally against the Reformers, and there you have the split. And that's why we're here, and that's why there's Catholics, Roman Catholics. Whole nother teaching. All right, so Paul's like, all right, let's go and let's encourage those churches that we started on our first missionary journey. All right, we started churches, we planted them there. Let's go back, see how they're doing. Let's answer questions. Let's preach some more. Let's see if we can make some more disciples. Look at 37. Barnabas wanted to take John, also called Mark, with them. But Paul did not think it wise to take him because he had deserted them in Pamphylia and had not continued with them in the work. Okay, so the first missionary journey, for whatever reason, Mark left them. He's like, guys, I'm going back. I'm sorry. We're not really given the why, but he left them. And so that made Paul mad, obviously, and probably at the time it made Barnabas a little upset too. But Barnabas, being the encourager, watch what happens. Paul didn't think it wise to take him because he deserted them and did not continue the work. They had such a sharp disagreement that they parted company. Barnabas took Mark and sailed for Cyprus. Paul chose Silas and left, commended by the brothers to the grace of the Lord. He went through Syria and Cilicia, strengthening the churches. Okay, so you could just see Barnabas and Paul arguing. Can't you? Like, Barnabas is like, come on, dude, I encouraged him. He's ready to go with us this time. He's not going to leave. I believe in him. And Paul's like, no, dude, we're not taking him. He bounced on us the first time. I'm not doing that again. And he's like, but I talked to him, right? You could just see them arguing. It's like, he's gonna stick with us this time. I believe. And here you got the encourager, and Paul's like, no, we're not. No. Yes. No. Okay, then I'm not even going with you. It's almost comical. You can imagine. But God used it to send them separate ways to do more work, right? Because Paul went this way, and Barnabas and John Mark went the other way, and so they accomplished more probably. We're not told what happened with Barnabas and Mark. Only later we know that Paul reconciled with Mark, because later in the epistles, while he's in jail, he requests for John Mark, and he says, send him to me because he is useful to me. And so whatever happened, maybe Barnabas linked them back up or something, I don't know. But something happened where Paul got right with John Mark. So you could just see Barnabas here, like trying to encourage Paul, trying to, encourage John Mark, and trying to pull him alongside and be like, come on, dude, you can do this. Let's try it again. And, here's Paul trying to discourage him, and he's like, no, okay, you get the idea. So Barnabas was the son of encouragement. All right, last passage, and then we'll do some practical application. Hebrews 10. Hebrews is also towards the end, right before James. And right after Titus and Philemon. Hebrews 10. 24 and 25. Okay, and let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. All right, let's do that again. So the writer of Hebrews, who we don't know who it is, he's encouraging the church to encourage one another. Okay, and he's not saying just you who have the gift of encouragement encourage each other. He's saying all of you encourage each other. Let's read it again. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Okay, you're supposed to think about how you can encourage other people in your life. To some people, this comes naturally, and you're just like you see someone hurting, and it's just natural for you to pull alongside them and help them, encourage them. You see someone who has a sad look on their face, and you're like, what's wrong? Like, how can I help you? How can I pray for you? You just naturally gravitate towards people who look like they're hurting. You don't have to raise your hand, but any of you understand that? Like, someone's hurting, and you're like, I just got to go see what's up with them. And you always have like a smile on your face, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry. How can I help you? How can I pray for you? Whatever. You're sending little cards to people. Anyone know people like that, right? You always get encouraging texts, right? Encouraging emails. They always forward you those little happy faces that blink and smile and dance, right? You know what I'm talking about. Those are the encouragement people, okay? And if you're the one doing that, like you see one of those little smiley gifts, and you're like, oh, I got to text this to everyone. That's you. Okay, you have this gift. So let's read 25. Let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, all the more as you see the day approaching. So he's saying, look, a lot of people use this text to say, like, you should go to church. And it's a good use of the text. But the context of this verse is encouragement. And he's like, look, you can't encourage yourself, even though there's actually songs called, I just need a little encouragement. I will encourage myself. Weird song. I don't know about the theology of it. However, don't stop meeting together so that you can encourage one another. Exhort. Pastors should be doing this. Teachers should be doing this, encouraging, exhorting. However, all of us are commanded to do this. For some of us, it's just natural. Just like evangelism. We should all be witnessing and evangelizing, but for some people, it's just natural. It's just natural. Does that make sense? So